Welcome to the show today. My name is Douglas Gabriel, and I'm here with my good friend Michael McKibben, who is indeed the most relevant entrepreneur of our time. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Wow, I'm humbled by that.
But it's true. Think right now, you just did the third impossible task. You know how in fairy tales they always give them three impossible tasks, and the third son does it, the first two fail. Well, you passed it. What did you do? You invented not only social media and the scalability of this kind of stuff so it could be worldwide, but a whole suite, an office full of different components, which are now the lifeblood of digital technical humanity. And then you invented MySKF, which I said couldn't be done, a quantum proof encryption system, polymorphic, that dissolves the keys after they're used. So there is no way possible it can ever be broken unless you want to spend a few lifetimes of the earth, I think, or the whole cosmos, right? 20 billion years or something, you might be able to figure it out. And now you've gone the next step. I had wondered why we hadn't talked to you for a while. You must have been so deep down in the mines with your astounding cryptologists, your amazing programmers, and some of the great minds of our times who you have worked with to create now the third quantum leap step, which is personal messaging that is completely quantum proof and encrypted. Michael, tell us about your newest invention.
The name of the product is MySKF Message Vault. And it essentially is a form of email. On the surface, it's going to look like email to an average user. But the difference is going to be with email. When you send email out into the internet, just about everything in it is completely accessible to a predator. But with this type of messaging, nothing in the message will be accessible to a predator, even if they've got a quantum computer, which is fake anyway. But let's just say conceptually they had a quantum computer, the math doesn't lie, and it would still take many lifetimes of the universe to crack this message. So it is the true next development in email encryption since 1991, when Phil Zimmermann created PGP, which means pretty good privacy.
I'm sorry, but I need a little better than pretty good privacy. And I also don't, and you said quantum computers, which don't exist. I loved your aside, because that's what I always say. I can't say quantum computers without saying fake lie.
Wait, I should go along with the narrative. Oh, it exists. It exists now. They've had breakthroughs on everything, and it's all working, and it's all going to attack you tomorrow.
But even if that lie were true, Michael, you and your cryptologists have figured out a way to make it quantum proof.
Yes, the math doesn't lie. The math stays ahead of anything in terms of speed of the theoretical quantum computer, which doesn't exist.
Recently, we saw your cryptologist, and I say your cryptologist. He was a cryptologist before he was your cryptologist. Right. But the point is, you found the greatest cryptologist in the world, who is printed, and I've read his articles in Department of Defense documents, which is the cutting edge. The state of the art actually doesn't come from corporations. It comes from the military, because they're the ones who fund it initially, and then through DARPA, Highlands Forum, and QTEL, they steal it. Right. So what we have now, note the coincidence. When you invented social networking and scalability for the World Wide Web, then all of a sudden, a fake person, Mark of the Zuckerbeast, says he did it. Isn't that a coincidence? Right after they stole it from you, instantaneously. Now you created a system, MySKF, which can send any size documents, completely encrypted, so it cannot be opened up. And what happens? Then we get to see all over the internet fake people coming out saying that they invented that. Notice all those people have disappeared. Every one of those people who came out and said that they did what you actually did, and they tried to steal the wind in your sails.
We know their game now. Their game is, when they don't have something, they will tout to the whole world that they do have it, and hope that will stall the market so that anybody else who's actually building it will not get the funding to build it. and therefore they will stay ahead of the game. It's kind of like with Star Wars back during the Reagan era. They didn't have that technology, but they touted all over the world that they had it, and I guess the Russians believed them. I don't really know whether the Russians believed them or not, but you know more about that than I do. But the fact is that this is called fear porn. This is to put fear in the minds of the average person in the public that they are helpless lab rats for these predators that we call our U.S. government military and the British military and MI6. And because of this propaganda they're pushing out right now, they hope that will stall our introduction of this product. But I can let me tell you, it's coming out.
It's already operative. And, you know, when you told us that your MySKF product was operative, you know, I was a cryptologist for the National Security Agency. I was one of the top dogs at the time.
That's why people don't trust you, Douglas.
And I was a Jesuit. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Double whammy.
I went the wrong direction a few times, but I did stop, turn around, and get the heck out, right?
So that's called repentance.
You know now that I don't even want to touch a computer or have anything to do with that. And yet I invented some of the things that they still use today. But the inventions are coming along very fast and furious. So the third step is what you just described. They use fear porn. And so you're going to see this on your Facebook site, on your thread. It's going to appear.
Well, didn't you just get something on your Facebook site today?
In just the last few days, since we have been talking about this, and since you actually completed your writing with your other people who are working with you and the presentation of it and completed the product, boom. Oh, the snazziest thing I've ever seen from IBM, never seen anything from IBM before, pops up on my screen, about 6 of them. First thing that popped up was fear porn. Quantum computers are here. IBM controls the one quantum computer in the world. That is true, but it's not a quantum computer. It's based upon integrated circuits. It's a lie. There's no qubits in the IBM Quantum 1 computer. Look it up, folks. It's a lie. They don't have one. And even that is a demonstration one that only worked for a certain period of time, and it did one calculation. And
before it overheated and had to be cooled down for 3 days.
Exactly.
That's the state of the art.
Correct. So then they came out with one saying, IBM has connected, I think 12 or 24 qubits together so that now we have a system that we call the Omicron, which is the new state of the art, insinuating that quantum computers are here. Okay.
Insinuating that you could do that with 24 qubits, which you can't do. All of the experts tell me you need at least 2,000 qubits to do that. They aren't even close to having enough qubits to do what they say they're doing.
And because they know that, do a little search on that, and you'll find the real research that says qubits are out, quad bits are in. If you can't be in more than 2 places at once, okay, a qubit can be in 2 places at once with the memory saying that it's true here, and yet it's opposite. Right. Oh no, now you have to have multiple stages of that, so they call it quad bits.
Okay. And they have to keep far enough ahead of the game to keep the propaganda moving. That's the objective here. It's not about science. It's not about technology. And so lying until people believe your lie.
The fear porn came on and said, quantum computers are here. IBM owns them. We have now broken with our new discovery. Their new discovery is the part in the qubit that stops all the errors, because qubits basically generate nothing but errors.
I see.
And
they generate some errors. It's not nothing but they generate enough errors that you can't really rely on the result.
Nothing. They've been able to not rely. But they say that this new error gate that stops all the errors was able to solve, and you'll laugh because you haven't seen this, man. I tried to grab this so I could send it to you. There's no way I could get this. So whatever this commercial was, it was something purely evil. Probably went out to everyone in the universe on the internet to try to convince them of this. So, because I would have sent it to you and then we could have laughed about it, right? Because I knew that this is nonsense because you and your friends have told me the truth of the matter. So anyway, here it says it's coming, and what is this going to do? Because we have figured out the error problem, and we have qubits all connected, and we have quantum computers. We broke the old standard encryption system called, and it's in your paper, I forget the name of it. They say they broke that. Well, you had said, and you and your cryptologist said, that's been broken by your
Since
cryptologist and others
2013.
for years.
AES 256 has been
That's
broken
the one.
since 2013.
So they say they broke that. Oh, really? I don't even know if IBM broke it. I know the cryptologist who broke it. And then this is what I really love. Well, oh, this is going to really excite you. Because they've done this right now, IBM's protecting you, but the evil ones are going to get a hold of this and they're going to steal every piece of information you have and ruin your life. That's what this commercial said.
Let's talk about IBM a minute. If people don't know, IBM was created in the late 1800s and started out as was developed out of the sewing systems that automated weaving machines. And then they almost immediately went into cryptology. And ever since then, IBM has been a source of encryption for the powers that be in the City of London, in New York, in Washington. Every evil center in the world has been using IBM as their chief technology provider for the last 120, 130 years. And I know specifically a lot about IBM because my patent attorney was IBM's chief outside intellectual property counsel. His name was James P. Chandler III. And at the time, I didn't think that was a bad thing. What I have since learned is that IBM was the chief technology provider for the British Pilgrim Society, headquartered in the City of London, and was tied at the hip with Marconi, with British Telecom, with BAE, British Aerospace, and RCA, which then came to America and started NBC. And so what we hear, when you read IBM now, you need to think this is the technology source of this thing we call the deep state, which we now know has a name, and that's the British Pilgrim Society.
And once you know that, then you can understand why IBM Eclipse Foundation stole your stuff through the most powerful patent attorney in America, representing Washington, D.C. and the military, because you also had General Freeze,
NSA. Mm-hmm.
Hello? You had been infiltrated by the top dogs because you had done what they couldn't do, which is make it scalable as well as make it workable, and then create all these different what do you call it, suites or different capacities that you have through leader technology. You can do all these different things. You had created all those things, which then became separate companies.
And look at how easy it is to fool the public, because that same IBM paid propaganda people in Fleet Street and on Madison Avenue to build a story that was a false story about the origins of Facebook. And they made up a story that in 2.5 weeks, this kid, sophomore from Harvard, Mark Zuckerberg, magically created what it took us about 7 years to create, and about 25 people and about $20 million. So look how easy it is to lead the public around by the nose ring. And that all came from IBM and IBM's cronies in the British Pilgrim Society.
The deification of Silicon Valley cardboard cutouts like Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, these people are terrible caricatures that insult our intelligence. Mark Zuckerberg, when asked how he created it, his words were, well, we didn't have a Facebook at Harvard, so I made one. That's his entire explanation and his exact words of how. And then if the interviewer would have been smart, they would have said, but Mark, you also stated in your letters to your girlfriend, who of course we know you really don't have a relationship with, that's just fake. You stated that you bought a keg of beer and over the weekend you wrote the code for it, though you failed your classes in code and failed the university.
So what did the movie The Social Network have to do to make that even partway plausible? They had to make him out to be an idiot savant that wrote code so fast that nobody could keep up with him. And magically, that's how the code was created. Anybody that writes code knows that's not the way you do it. You can't do it that way. You can't do it that fast, especially for something as significant as social networking.
He's a front man, an idiot, a stooge, a useful idiot that is used by basically the Senior Executive Service, which is an extension of the Pilgrim Society's agreement of Anglo-American imperialistic rule of the world.
Yeah, and they're crown agents.
And they're crown agents at all levels. It's just disgusting that when our research has proven all this. But let's go back to point 3. The third quantum leap was to say, and I said to you, can't you guys do this? And you were saying, we think it can be done, but it's kind of impossible. And then you did it in the last few months. And we knew you were headed this direction, but I didn't know you'd be able to do it.
Well, that's when we told you about it. We'd been working on it for about 3 years.
Oh, see,
just quietly working on it.
You got to keep the secrets away from big mouths like me. I got it.
No, that wasn't it.
So the point is that I kept saying, okay, the military is not going to be interested in a point-to-point encryption system. It doesn't matter that it's quantum proof, doesn't matter it's polymorphic and they have dissolving keys. They don't want that. They want to be able to send out one message to a whole bunch of people. I know I was in the NSA. I used to use the IBM cards. IBM has helped the evil of the world grow since the time of Hitler using them.
Correct.
And you put the cards in this, and I said, oh, no. It has got to go out all at once, because if there's a single person in the whole world in their top secret network that blows it with even doing one teensy tiny thing wrong, and it's a whole system, everyone has to pull that card out, cut it up and burn it and go to the next card all at the same exact time. Okay. So they have to communicate everything all at once. You've just created that capacity.
You mentioned IBM and the Nazis. Well, most people don't know that IBM supplied all the computers that the Nazis used for encryption during the Second World War. And also they hear a lot about MK Ultra, but they don't hear anything about Project TCOM. And Project TCOM was initiated by the US government in London during the end of the war. And that project was assigned to go around to all of the IBM facilities in Germany that the Germans or the Italians controlled and blow up all the evidence, which they did. And then they also interviewed, I suppose, or killed all of the cryptologists that were working for the Germans. And we don't know those things because IBM was the key provider to the technology for the Allies as well. So IBM was on both sides of the game all during the war. And guess what? At the end of the war, IBM had the contract through a company they had called Hollerith to supply all of the paper punch cards that you're referring to the Germans in their IBM computer facilities. Well, guess what? At the end of the war, IBM got paid all of their invoices that were owed to them by the Germans.
And they stole, basically, when we say social network, I want to make it very clear. This is like 12 different things that you had invented. A messaging system, this kind of board and that kind of board and this kind of,
right.
And this kind of security, this kind of, you even gave the ability to not have, I just laughed so hard in your paper when it came to, what's it called? Pretty good privacy.
Yeah, pretty good privacy.
Oh yeah, pretty good privacy. That means there's a backdoor in it. That means it has the dual EC DRBG in it, which...
Well, okay, the refinement of that story is that when Zimmerman, who I know and I had actually hired about 10 years later, named his product, he called it Pretty Good Privacy because he was an honest mathematician who knew he could not say it was encryption proof, because he said as long as you've got mathematicians and people involved with encryption, anything could be cracked given enough time and money. And so he called it Pretty Good Privacy, which was a mathematically accurate name. He was then immediately indicted when he refused to put this dual EC DRBG algorithm in the back end of his PGP system. And for 5 years, he was under indictment by the federal government to try to intimidate him to do that. So that's the backstory of Zimmerman. Zimmerman was a good guy, and as long as he was involved with PGP, he says he never allowed a backdoor into PGP. But now PGP is run by Symantec, whom I'm sure everybody recognizes the name, and also Proton Mail also uses PGP. And so therefore, we have to assume that they all have backdoors now.
And then in these new commercials, folks, that you're probably seeing and you're going, oh, I'm scared. Quantum computers are coming. I need to get some IBM help. Oh, IBM, help me, help me, help me.
Right.
That's what that's what it solicits. I wonder if there's not subliminal programming in all these different commercials
I'm
who
sure there is.
appear, then disappear, don't know where they came from, and you can't find them, and there's no source. So, but what does it say? Oh, get ready. Mike, would you please hold on to your hat? I don't want you to lose it, okay? They not only have quantum computers, and they not only have new encryption, and they not only have error checking, and they not only have qubits, but they have a new algorithm. A new algorithm. That's supposed to convince me of all the lies you told before. Comes down to you have a new
Well,
algorithm.
they can talk algorithms because nobody knows what that means.
That's exactly right.
And then anybody in the encryption business doesn't talk a lot about it because they're not that kind of person. They're quiet. They're introverts. They don't counter all this stuff. And so these guys have gotten away with it for decades and decades and decades. Oh, until this guy, Mike McKibben and Leader Technologies, came along and said, we're not playing that game. Zimmerman said, I'm not playing that game. And now we're starting to be able to get the truth out to people that encryption is a ruse, has been a ruse, so that the intelligence agencies and the governments and the banks could have a back door into everyone's information, could therefore then use it to manipulate them, either to go drive this way, drive that way, drive yourself into the ground, kill yourself, whatever they wanted you to do. And that is what they learned out of the Tavistock Institute in London, is how to manipulate people into hurting themselves by their decisions.
Before, and please correct me, you love to correct me on this one, Sir Timothy Berners-Lee
Timothy Berners-Lee
invented the World Wide Web at CERN, which he didn't, because that's a home of the British Program Society, CIA, OSS, blah, blah, MI5, MI6.
Right.
And there is no Hadron Collider. There's no proof it was ever made. And it was the largest money spent on any scientific project ever in human history, which then gives us garbage. It just gives us a bunch of ones and zeros that mean nothing. And then they try to speculate on the coming out of there. Well, that was invented by DARPA, and it was called ARPANET. And it was used in all the universities that have the National Science Foundation grants to build weapons. And so remember, the first internet was called ARPANET. The second was called the Darknet, which didn't, as Michael tried to do with all the people he worked with and his company, make us free users. We became imprisoned targets. And
right.
That's what it's been used for. But if you have Leader Technology, you can get email and other things from there. But if you have MySKF, and you have the component called Messenger Vault.
Message Vault.
Oh, by the way, the new IBM thing is, it's called Quantum Safe. Vault, safe, same word.
These guys are so creative.
You need Quantum Safe. Why? Yeah. Because you just offered them MySKF Messenger Vault. They steal your exact words, and sometimes they
Well, that's what they've always done. They are not creative, and all they can do is steal. But they always twist it. They hire some good Madison Avenue people to come up with some other word to make it sound similar. So I'm not surprised by this at all. In fact, I told all my programmers that, hey, this is a good sign that we're on the right track, because they're worried about it in that before we even got this new release issued, they're already out there trying to counter it and confuse people. Well, I don't think the general public is going to be confused this time, because more people are educated at their game.
Yes, which can move us into the bigger, but my whole first part of this talk, I just wanted to rant and rave about IBM is doing it again.
Yes, they're doing what comes natural to them, and that's lie. That means they're demon possessed. So we're talking about demons and what demons do to scare people.
Exactly. And by the way, these commercials from IBM got to me. they
That's
actually
amazing.
they actually made me for a minute believe them, and I'm going, oh no, this has to be subliminal programming because I know different. So don't you almost have me convinced. Oh, and it all comes down that you don't have a quantum computer. You never
Yeah,
will.
think
You
of the
don't have
opposite.
qubits that work. You don't have an error checking machine. You weren't the first people to disprove that the one you ASE to whatever it is, that they broke it. No, they didn't break it. And then that they have the quantum one that's going to save everybody. And then magic algorithms.
See, I think that the assumption that they know people make is that, well, that's IBM, it has a lot of money, can have a lot of projects going in parallel. Well, anybody that's actually worked in a large corporation where there's thousands of research and development people knows that that's exactly the opposite of what really happens. They have so many people, they're running into each other in the hallways, and they never get anything done. Most major breakthroughs come in small groups of 10 or maybe 15 engineers. And that was the size of our engineering outfit. So the idea, they're mixing ideas together to get people fearful. And one of them is, we have a lot of money, therefore we can have 5 or 6 breakthroughs at once. No, that does not happen that way in research and development. And it certainly doesn't happen that way in research and development with large corporations. They fight, these engineers inside these large corporations, they fight with each other. No, everything slows down to a grinding halt with any attempt to invent anything new. That's why I think IBM decided over 100 years ago to start stealing everything that everybody had. And they still do that. They're the largest patent holder on the planet. And so where did they get all these patents? Did they invent them all inside? That's what they want us to think. But no, they stole them all. And they used their lawyers then to exercise lawfare against patent holders and against really creative people in order to stall any kind of claims against them until that person ran out of money and couldn't protect themselves any longer. And that's their game. And Chandler was a part of that game. He was a part of the game that where IBM would force people all over the planet to pay them royalties rather than chase them, have IBM chase them through lawfare. And that is the intellectual property game with IBM. We know that well.
And you've spelled out in your research the way that they can just hold you up in patent dispute, and no matter you're the owner, doesn't matter. The person who's doing this certain thing gets to win the day because they got more money, more lawyers. It's
well, exactly. Look at the way they falsely accused Trump and then made him spend tens of millions of dollars trying to defend himself against a bold-faced lie.
Absolutely. So then, really, this is not only Madison Avenue sales pitch where they create a fear, they create a need, and then they tell you they're going to satisfy it, but it goes into perception management because they say the big computer in the sky that's going to rule us all is telling you now
through with AI.
With super AI. This is super AI. Come on. Quantum computer is just another word for the fake super AI. Come on. And it's a sales pitch. And only one company in the world can provide this for you. And we're the company, and we're looking after your safety and security. And it's almost like we love you people. And that's why we do what we do. No, here's the reality. Perception management has a component in it that it has to go to the highest aspects of thinking to be effective with people. And so what are they doing here? They've messed us up to the point that we believe in super AI, or that there's AI instead of just subroutines and applications, and that humans didn't make this. They came from aliens. This is alien technology, and the government knows it. And now the government's going to look after your safety and security and take care of you. And that's exactly what IBM says they're going to do. If you buy into quantum safe, they're going to look at, well, everyone knows there's no more free speech. They already spy on every aspect of you. I mean, an Aborigine in Papua New Guinea would know this, right? Like the ones they'd interviewed, they say Epson didn't kill himself. You know, I mean, even cannibals in the jungle know this. Okay, it's all lies. They're spying on every part of you. They put people in jail for going after their Gmail account for saying something to their friend that they didn't like about the government. We see this huge distraction of Trump and Truth Social, of the only honest man in America going, Devin Nunes, to take care of Trump Social when nobody's there, nobody's saying anything. It's nothing more than Trump's website. And then you have Elon Musk, who brought free speech. I have people arguing with me that Elon Musk is a good person. He brought free speech to Twitter, to X. And now they're asking Elon Musk to go ahead and buy, what's that one that China, TikTok.
TikTok. Right. He's the savior. But don't ask Alex Jones, because he just today said he is 100% in with Elon. 100%. 100%.
Well, how does it feel, Mike, to be kind of, only reaching or be able to even be understood by a very small percentage of humanity that has the capacity for clear thinking? I mean, that's what we're working with here. If anyone thought Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook, then you cannot be very intelligent. If you think Elon Musk has invented anything, then you haven't listened to him speak. I don't get it. But that's the power that this type of propaganda has over people.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
But let's go back to the fact of, is anything anywhere that isn't sent on MySKF or MySKF Messenger Vault safe?
No.
Can it be broken out?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Tell
no
us
question.
about the PKI.
Well, there's several systems that the federal government with the British put in place in the 90s, right after Clinton became president. And they convened in 93 a meeting paid for by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And it was to give the FBI a backdoor key into all internet communications. And this was organized by John Podesta and Professor James P. Chandler, our future patent attorney. I didn't know this then. We learned this through Hillary's private email server. She had a list of the participants in this meeting. And they developed several approaches. One was they would embed a backdoor key called the dual EC-DRBG algorithm into all hardware, software, and firmware. Now, the backdoor algorithm is actually pretty simple. If you think of a big, let's say a 256 byte long key, and let's say there are 4 letters in there, if you find these in a certain order, that's the backdoor key. That was the flaw that they put in this particular algorithm. Initially, they wanted it to run through something called the Clipper chip. Congress pushed back on that. So what they did is they required it for all export of software, hardware, and firmware around the world. And it was implemented, and it is still operating to this day, despite Wikipedia claims that they stopped it in 2014. We believe that to be a big lie, that they still do it because they still require the registration of this algorithm. What they did is they changed the name in 2014. They didn't change the algorithm.
Excuse me, but Mike, I know you have a solution for all of this, and I'd like to say a few things about TikTok and all the others. They're parked their platforms on your stolen technology. And
Right.
The first person that needs to come out and right this wrong is Donald Trump through Devin Nunes, the cow farmer who read all about your work. And what did he do? He went off and he created his own platform and he parked it on your stuff. And this is really pissing me off that Trump hasn't come out and said anything, and Devin Nunes continues to roll on. And let me tell you, you take Aim for Truth or AFI links and you try to post them on Truth Social, you will be banned. The same thing goes and has always gone with
Right.
Twitter and X. Okay. So they're free speech. No, they're not. They're free speech to everybody in the world except Michael McKibben and the theft of social networking.
Yeah,
Now, let's talk about the solution.
The solution, the evidence is deafening in their silence. And with Devin Nunes, let's say he's a cow farmer who doesn't understand technology. I say the one who did understand what they were doing with True Social was his law firm out of Florida, whose one of their principals was heavy into the British Pilgrim Society. So he obviously knew. So the fact that nobody will say anything about the origins of social network tells you everything you need to know. They can't say anything because as soon as they do, then they're exposed. And as far as what Trump says, I don't care if Trump doesn't say anything. All I want is a signature on the check to pay our shareholders for the theft of our technology. That's the Fifth Amendment takings clause.
But more than that, then we, the people, will have our own terms of service for Elon Musk to run his site. TikTok too. It takes care of all of these issues of censorship. But of course they can't have that because then they're outed.
They are. Everybody has to admit that, okay, fine, I am infringing.
And I'm sorry, I don't give Devin Nunes a pass. He's a CEO, and a CEO should know more than a blathering secretary.
Exactly. He may not have known, but he should have known.
There's no excuse.
The Miller Act.
Miller
Talk
Act
about
notice.
the Miller Act.
The Miller Act notice. The latest post of Americans for Innovation, we put up a summary of the issues involved with our Miller Act notice, which basically enables Trump to set up something called the Free Press Fund. We will set up the Free Press Fund, which will take the royalties due us under the Miller Act notice payout, and we will commit a substantial portion of that payout, which is, hope you're sitting down, into the trillions of dollars. By now, you can think of it, since 2000 to now, it's the entire infringement of our technology throughout the technology world, which in today includes everyone. And we will take a significant portion of that payout, put it into a free press fund, and then make those funds available so that a truly free press can emerge that will not be funded by the City of London banks and by the major media outlets, but it will be funded by we the people. And that's what we have offered to do. We've offered to put those funds out. All President Trump has to do is acknowledge the claims of the Miller Act notice and sign the check. And then the Free Press Fund starts immediately. Now, there's a lot of details in how that's going to be doled out, but we've got a lot of cash to work with then. And so we can see a truly free press fund, free press developed since the American Revolution. We have to remember that in the American Revolution, the British banks were already in our knickers in our press in the United States. So we've never truly had a free press fund, a free press in the United States. And this fund will enable an ongoing cash flow that will allow a free press to develop that will not be beholden to the banks.
And it's an easy way out. Otherwise, your case against Facebook for stealing your technology, and that's only one company, there's 100 of them,
right,
went to the Supreme Court, and you actually won most of the points, but then they realized it was a political issue, and it was probably someone came and whispered into their ear, national security. And then you were done in.
They whispered, Facebook insider trading. We already bought our stock, so don't cut it out now. You asked Roberts, that Supreme Court justice, how much Facebook stock did he have when he was sitting there listening to this case? And did he recuse himself? And I'm all worked up about it because I'm tired of being censored.
Right. We were censored from the moment we went into these federal courts, and the only thing they couldn't 100% control was the jury. And on those decisions, the jury voted in our favor. They then got to one of the jurors who then started screaming in the jury room, according to people that were there, and started insisting that I was lying to the court. And here's the decision they came back with. They came back with a decision that Leader infringed its own patent. I mean, that is so ridiculous. They used a law that had never been applied to a patent case, and said that Mike McKibben himself infringed his own patent, and that's why his patent's invalid. Well, the jury didn't buy that part of it, but they bought this, what's called on sale bar part of it, and that went all the way to the Supreme Court. That gave all these justices, who, by the way, all the judges in our case had mountains of Facebook interests all the way up to John Roberts and others on the Supreme Court. And so that was our first clue that something was rotten in Denmark, or I should say rotten in Washington, D.C. and Delaware, that our justice system was not intending to protect inventors, but was rather intending to protect the infringers with whom they had private stuff.
And if people don't know, there are many inventors who are still in jail because their inventions were considered national security, and then they spoke to someone, and that means you go to jail for 10 years or a $5,000 fine every time you speak about it. Fortunately, Michael's not in that specific condition with Leader Technologies, but that is the kind of power they have. They can take any patent they want. It goes through the British.
Serco. Serco is running our patent office.
Exactly. And Serco is the Pilgrim Society. It's the British corporate elite, right, Roddenite bankers that go back to the initial demon worship, especially demon worship of money. And so we see the same old patterns happening all the time. What I think is that it's true. Part of what they say is true. You better get ready, because they are and already have taken all of your privacy. And just like Tyler, who gets to see that literally we put out wonderful things that are absolutely true, and they're forbidden. They're banned.
Yeah,
there's no free speech in America.
Yeah, I've heard that about X as well. So X and Truth Social are censoring information about Leader Technologies right now.
Correct.
And Facebook. They never have posted anything on there. Okay.
Right.
And then the other culprit is Google, YouTube, that also censors. They
Right.
took down an entire site of ours with over 800 videos all at once.
Yep.
And
they
then,
did the same thing with us too.
as we went forward, it would be just taking down the things that spoke about Leader Technologies, because they too are infringing.
Right.
And the thing is we have a solution. I want to see that solution done, signed by Trump. It's no executive order. It's simply paying the plumber for the plumber's work.
Exactly. You hire a plumber to plumb your house and you don't pay them, they can slap a lien on your house.
Yeah.
Until they get paid. And that's what we've done with the federal government.
They all know about this because we sent up a packet, not only virtually, digitally, we sent up was it by courier?
FedEx.
Planes and everything. And then all of a sudden everybody fell off. And who knew about this? It looks to me as though Matt Gaetz and John Ratcliffe and, all the people that were in the intelligence community, they knew about it. And so
Jim Jordan knew about it as well.
You have Matt Gaetz going off to OAN. Is that because he knows that if Trump signs the Miller Act notice, that OAN would then be able to claim some of this money for their new media? And maybe he has a percentage of it. I can't help but think that, because nobody will tell the truth.
Well, the media has been so ingrained in a willingness to lie that they are demon possessed. And these people have to be exorcised. Either exorcised or just go away. But either way, these demons are just telling lies, and we need to assume that with everything we hear in mainstream media and some alternative media.
Absolutely. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to explain something to people. Years ago, when we came across, and you remember me saying to you, look, I really need some help. This dude we know told us about the Federal Bridge Authority.
Right.
And I did the best research I could, and all I could come up with was a bunch of fraud with a bunch of city bridges that, but this guy had said this was the controlling factor of everything, and it's where the biggest money of all is. And we're like, what does that mean? So I asked you. So you started, and you came out with showing that there is the federal
Bridge Certificate Authority.
and the public key infrastructure.
Right.
And the certificate
that was the
authority,
invention of Phil Zimmerman.
the certificate authority is a group of IT guys, all touting the vested interests of IBM and others, who simply say, we give to Hillary the crypto keys, and we give to so-and-so the crypto keys. And they're the crypto keys that actually control even the launch sequence for nuclear weapons. They are Hillary. They're everything. They're government, they're corporate, they're private. It doesn't matter.
So here's the deep, dark secret about the Federal Bridge Certificate Authority. That is the certificate authority that you pay money to every month, or your ISP pays money to every month to get you access to the internet. Without that, you would not be allowed on. And that's how easy it could be cut off too. Your access could be cut off. But it's supposed to be a trusted third-party source to prevent people from being able to become predators on the internet. Now, here's the dirty little secret that was invented after Phil Zimmerman would not give a backdoor into PGP. This is when that occurred, exactly the same time. They developed a system called the public key infrastructure. And that public key infrastructure was going to keep a public key on you out on the internet that anybody could get access to. The other side of that is your system, your local system, would then create a private key every time you went onto the internet. And then if anything you exchanged back and forth, they would combine the public key and the private key and would encrypt that signal. And that is the way it works. Now, here's the dirty little secret that I've just recently quizzed a bunch of the key people in modern day encryption, and nobody knows about this. But inside the public key infrastructure is a little known requirement called the Key Recovery Authority. And that Key Recovery Authority gives the public key infrastructure authorization to save all of your private keys when you go onto the internet. So at the moment you go onto the internet, your private key rides out to the public key infrastructure and is stored with your private key. So what does that mean? That means everything you do is open to any of these people who have access to this certificate authority, which if you look at the names, there's about 65 companies. Some of them you'll know, some of them you won't know, Entrust, DigiCert, Symantec, most of the federal agencies, the Department of Treasury, they all have access to both keys on everything you do and have done since the public key infrastructure was created in about 1994 to today.
Now, the reason I wanted to highlight that, and you explained it in such a clear way, MySKF Messenger Vault has polymorphic dissolving keys. It dissolves both of those keys, and it's like Mission Impossible when the message bursts into flames. Once it's done, it's gone, and not even you, the inventor, not even the person who controls this, can get that.
Right.
And then when you and before you send the message, you pick up the bat phone, the red phone, and which is the message device, and says, all you send is message. That's all you have to send. The person goes, oh, right. Mike's sending me a message. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to open the MySKF document. Holy Lord, I'd go to jail if they saw that I was reading this. Though it wasn't mine, this is the fact. If you even read something sent to you now, you are guilty of it. And if they can see all of it, then you're dead meat. I'm sorry. If you're targeted, you lose. That's all there is to it. Now, polymorphic dissolving keys. When I saw those words on your new product here, it blew my mind.
Right. The main difference is the master key in the public key infrastructure is created out on the web. With polymorphic encryption, the master keys are only created on the sender's device and the receiver's device, and neither side has all the information to actually form the key until the event itself occurs. So when I encrypt something and send it to you, Douglas, no key, no encryption goes into the internet. When you want to decrypt something, that's when my file comes to you encrypted, and then your side creates your own version of the key based on your private key, opens it up, and then it all dissolves. So that there is no evidence. We keep nothing at MySKF, nothing, absolutely nothing. And there's nothing that anybody, even if they tried to hack our system, would ever find that would associate anything with you or me. So this is the most secure email type capability since PGP. And it's
Okay.
more secure.
Couple questions. I'm a listener. Here's my question. Are you telling me that IBM's Quantum Computer 1 can't decrypt my messages? Is that what you're telling me? They can or they can't? I just saw a message that said they can.
No, they can't.
Oh, well, if I send a message and it's something that I really don't want the government to see and I send it through MySKF Messenger Vault,
They
are
can't
you
open it.
telling me there's no way they're ever, no matter what?
Oh, maybe.
How about if
maybe in-
aliens came?
maybe
Could
in two
aliens
li-
decrypt it?
Maybe in 2 lifetimes or 3 lifetimes of the universe, they could open it. But
Okay.
no, not in any reasonable length of time.
I am underscoring the fact that your inventions, especially these last two, people said could never be done. You've done it and you've proven it and you've done the beta studies and you've already got back the fact that nobody, and you offered even a reward if
A
somebody
Crackit
could,
award, $20,000.
20,000. Yeah, nobody's cracking it, folks, because it's impossible to crack. I was a cryptologist, and what Michael is describing is nothing that anyone could have even imagined in cryptology. This is beyond imagination, and yet it's right here. And why is it coming now? Just like the internet was there when we reached the critical mass of human consciousness that we actually could become global citizens. And the internet was provided for us for evil purposes. We have used it in many cases for very good purposes, like Michael intended it to be with social media. Unfortunately, it's gone bad. And so, as we've heard from Tyler and so many others, you speak truth, you get banned. Truth Social, what nonsense. They have the same filters on them that they have everywhere else. This has now been proven with Elon Musk's nonsense with X, Twitter. Same exact fact checkers, and they're all British, by the way. So what are we doing here? We are giving the way out so that we can now remember that social media is closed down the second that a government believes there's a color revolution going on, because it's social media that causes revolutions. Don't forget that. Every recent George Soros color revolution was done with social media apps. And so if we could actually have one that was really secure, guess what? Maybe we could really analyze whether the experiment of capitalistic democracy is what I would call this chaos Marxism in America. And we could maybe do something about it. We have to be able to know that our rights are not violated every time we open our mouth.
Chandler knew that I had hired Phil Zimmerman back when we were finalizing the platform. And we intended to embed an encryption capability like polymorphic encryption into the storage of all social media, so that the only people that could see it were the sender and receiver. That was on the drawing board back then. That's what the federal government ripped out, because they had already conceived of this PKI infrastructure, which gave them the ability to read everything all the time while they're fooling and lying to the public, i.e. they're demons now, that you're protected. HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Security. That's all a lie. It's all a lie. It's a deception to get people to put their information out into the public and then believe the lie that it's secure. Anybody that believes it's a lie is secure today is a fool. Sorry to be so specific, but they're a fool.
And we have done shows, and you have shown the articles where this is proven by the top people in the industry.
Right.
This isn't nonsense, okay? And so why is it that the most significant entrepreneur of our time has not been interviewed by the alternatives like Alex Jones? Well, guess what? Anyone who doesn't interview Michael, you better ask the question, are they a spin
Yeah.
zone?
Why?
Why wouldn't
No.
they?
Joe Rogan hasn't called you up, Mike? I mean,
No, not yet.
wouldn't this be the biggest story? It certainly would be bigger than the telepathy tapes, I would think. Nobody calls you. And in fact, I have been first witness to people who interview you and then they destroy the tape. They said, oh, I'm sorry, it didn't record. Oops, I made a mistake and deleted it. How many times has that happened?
Right, it has. Well,
Yeah.
I think that probably if they're not thinking of it consciously, they're unconsciously thinking, I'm depending on social media for my livelihood. So therefore, if I go publicizing McKibben, then I am basically going to have to start paying. And I would say that the short answer to that is, what's wrong with that? You pay licenses for everything else. Why not pay the inventor of social networking so that you're at least doing your supposed good work legally? If you're doing it consciously and knowing you're infringing, then you need to look inside your heart.
They do. They know they're infringing.
Well, then they need to look
Because you
inside their
get
heart.
on there and you explain it, and all of a sudden they realize that they too are stealing from you.
Right. Well, that's
Of
between
course,
them and God at that point.
They're destroying the First Amendment.
Yeah. Besides the constitutional aspects of this, we invented it. Therefore, we should be enjoying a 20-year monopoly on a patent or a copyright, which the founders knew was the most valuable thing in an economy. Way back then, a long time ago, they knew that that was going to be the strength of the American economy. And look what's happened. We let the British take over our patent system, and not a single congressman or senator or member of the government has ever spoken a word about this abortion of morality in us giving our intellectual property and our newest and brightest inventions to the British.
We didn't give it to them. The British stole it. And how can
No, we
America
gave it.
even recover economically if inventors don't feel like they can provide new stuff? Because
Well,
the
they
patent
didn't
office is
steal
going to
it.
steal
We
it.
gave them we gave Serco the contract. So on paper, they have a contract to do what they're doing, but that decision was made on a wholly immoral basis, and therefore was a bogus decision. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to thank you again before the show ends. This is momentous. This is a gigantic leap forward for free speech, for privacy, and for our constitutional rights, which have been abnegated. You know, when they said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, they had struck the word property and put in pursuit of happiness, because John Locke had told us the way to do it because he had seen what the British had done, right?
Right. You
Well,
knew that
guess
well.
what? We don't have a right to property, and now we're finding that out. They tax us for things we own. They triple tax us.
Right.
Person can be taxed 100 times for the house that they own, you know, or not 150 times, over and over and over again. So what we're doing here is they have taxed our freedom, and they built it in as legal. As you point out, it's legal, but as Tyler was just saying, it's like the All Preparedness and Pandemic Act.
Yeah.
Which congressman or senator wants to admit that that is anti-constitutional? It's traitorous, it's treason, and it gives our sovereignty away to a single individual in the World Health Organization underneath the guise of the United Nations, which was created by the British.
You know, they talk about what Trump should do first. And I think on the first day, one of the things he needs to do is remove the Serco contract from the patent office. And then he needs to completely reconstruct the patent office, which is now so, what's the right word? Intertwined with thieves, do-gooders, people who have no spine or moral backbone and just go along with this system as long as they get paid. In other words, they're good attorneys.
Exactly. I was going to say, when you said evil and you said bad, that's attorneys. Because these attorneys know nothing,
Yep.
They aren't creative, and they're just, and we see this all the time. You're right. And also along with that, all he has to do is a couple things: realize who the enemy is and cut our tethers to the enemy,
Right.
period. And it's so easy to do. And if they went to Truth Social, which is another thing you offer through Americans Innovation, which the later technology people and the geniuses put together with a little cheerleading from us, which is Truth History, or The Truth Will Set You Free.
Right.
If you want to know the facts of everything we have talked about today, go there and Google it. Or you can go to you can go to Our Spirit.
aimfortruth.org.
It's on aimfortruth.org, and
Right.
it's the first article, and it shows the book, because Michael and Tyler and I helped a little put together the most incredible book called Truth History. What is it, 600 gigabyte or 6 million pages of truth?
It's growing every day.
And it grows every day, folks. So we aren't talking off the top of our head. We are talking from direct experience. And it just so happens that the reason that Tyler calls Michael the most relevant entrepreneurial is because if you look at what happened to Leader Technologies and the $20 million they spent trying to defend themselves for what was just right and should have been supported all along by the courts and by justice.
Right.
What you're seeing is the archetypal example of the way that these forces work in the world. And that's the reason that we are just shocked every day. Every time we find something, Michael goes, holy Lord, that guy worked with that guy. Chandler told me I had to talk to him. There's hardly any evil that Michael and his religious group didn't confront back in the old days, including going behind the Iron Curtain when that was with Christianity, which was illegal at the time, to trying to bring humanity together as a global consciousness, and now to give you your rights of free speech back. So I don't know if you're out there clapping, but what we need to see now is a standing ovation. Congratulations, Michael.
Thank you.